I probably have at least a couple of minutes before people actually start joining. So that'll give me a chance to get my sound all set up. Because I haven't run a show like this in quite a while. Um, Sheila, hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a couple of shows. Happy Tuesday. How you been? And what is new? Question for you, Sheila. I got a link from your account, but it was one of those weird things. Basically, has different techniques. So I would assume it goes with fishing skills. So did you send me something from Facebook? Did you send me a Facebook link? That was from your, but it was one of those, like basically it was really hard to I believe it. Just wrong on that question. Did you send me something? Oh wow. So let me see. Okay, I haven't run out of this setup in a long time. So tell me if my audio is any better. I've got some new equipment. So if my audio is bad, I'll have to go dig up my microphone, which is not a problem. But I haven't used this equipment yet, so I didn't realize that the audio is not that good on it. Audio is now 100% better. Okay. So that's good to know. I was getting nervous. It's new equipment, so you never really know until you start using it how it's going to work. Yeah, so My question was, did you send me something on Facebook? Because I got a message on Facebook Messenger, I believe, and it came from you. But just the way it was laid out, I thought this looks like a phishing scam. And I've gotten those before from people who I'm linked to. So I thought, I don't know if this is real, and I deleted it. However, since you're here, I can ask, did you send me something on Facebook? And while you're doing that, it was Instagram. Okay, so you sent something on Instagram. Let me just double check that real quick. I don't look at my Instagram that often. So I'm just taking a quick peek over there. Okay, let me take a quick peek at Instagram on my phone because I don't want to remember what my password is and all of that. And my phone has it saved. And what do I have? Let me see, last 30 days. I did get something from you on Instagram. I got something on it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to assume that whatever that Facebook thing is that I got was just some spam, some kind of phishing thing. All good. Okay. Let me get back to my StreamYard. There we go. I don't know who else just joined in addition to Sheila, but welcome to the show. Tonight we're talking about Trump. And tonight we're talking about kind of the situation Trump is in right now, because my question is, one who cares. Good evening to all in the chat, host and chat. Welcome back, one who cares. Okay, so we got Sheila and one who cares. I think we have right now 2 Trump supporters in the chat, which is good. Because I know Steve may come popping up. It's always good to have somebody to balance him out. I got a question that's coming up, and it's kind of interesting. We'll part of what I want to do is I want to think about sort of who feels like they're going to win right now. And the reason I'm asking is this. When I look at what we've done in the last couple of months, a lot has happened. There was a first debate, second debate, couple of assassination attempts. And really, those seem to be the big news that's driving the campaign. Nobody cares about foreign policy that much anymore. Nobody is talking about immigration to the extent that they used to. People are talking about the economy, but not the same way. The conversation has definitely changed. And given how close we are to the election, there's something that is completely confusing me about Trump right now. And it's that he doesn't seem to want to have a third debate. And I literally don't get it, because as far as I can tell, there's nothing but upside for Trump if he has a third debate. I mean, there have been 2 debates. And after the first debate, Trump pretty much took hold of the reins for the election. Biden just lost his mind. The debates aren't really about who wins. They're about who looks bad. And the person who looks the worst seems to be the one who comes out of it in the most trouble. Biden looked horrible in that first debate. He stood there and just seemed to forget how to talk for a few seconds, and it was hard to watch. But those few moments for Biden pretty much sealed his fate. It was over. His own counsel had to come to him and say, look, you can't win this thing anymore. Now, I get the feeling after this second debate that the only thing people are talking about is dogs and cats. People aren't talking about all of the issues anymore. This whole thing has become dogs and cats. And frankly, something that should have died down within a couple of days of the debate seems to be taking on a life of its own. We've got all the memes that popped up. And then we've got JD Vance, and we'll take a look at his video a little bit later, where it looks like he's basically saying, hey, I lied about this because I'm trying to spin a narrative. And in some recent news, we've got Haitians in Springfield who are suing Vance and Trump for what they said. So dogs and cats has become the story. And as far as I'm concerned, Trump can make all of that go away by having a third debate. If he has a third debate, nobody's going to be thinking about what happened in the second debate. We don't seem to be able to get through a debate without some sort of disaster. And literally, all he's got to do is go through that third debate and not have a disaster. If we think about debate number 2, this is like my honest assessment. I think that Trump did 2 things wrong. Otherwise, everybody would be slamming Kamala right now. He did dogs and cats, and then he did like that late stage abortion after the baby's born. Like he went off on those 2 weird tangents, and that was all people could think about. Kamala did not really answer questions. She did not answer a lot of questions very well. She kind of, went wandering. People keep saying word salad. She went off on random topics a number of times. And if that was the focus of the debate, I think people would be saying that she didn't do a very good job. It's just that, she went a little bit off script. Trump went a lot off script. And so people are talking about Trump far more than they're talking about Kamala. It would be very easy right now to talk about how that debate felt like it was 3-on-1. It would be very easy to talk about how Kamala didn't really get fact-checked as much as Trump. And I'm not just talking about how many times, because you can say, Trump had more things that needed to be fact-checked than Kamala. And I would say that's probably true. But Kamala needed to be fact-checked a couple of times. And I'm saying it didn't really feel like Kamala was getting fact-checked at all. She was getting a pass. Trump was not. All of that would have been legitimate fuel for the fire in the election if Trump didn't go so far off, so far out with the dogs and cats and the abortion stuff. So if we're talking about like Trump's path to victory, I think that the third debate is the simplest, clearest way for him to do it. Because my opinion right now, and this is just my guess, I could be dead wrong, but I think if people went to the polls right now, I think Trump would lose by a small margin, and I think it would be because dogs and cats is the last thing in their mind when they're going to the polls. His assassination attempts, not going to matter. Some of the other things that are going on, not going to matter. People are going to go, and what's in their head is, he said that crazy thing about dogs and cats, and I'm kind of on the fence either way, so I need something to break the tie. That's what's going to break the tie. I don't know why he won't do the third debate unless he just believes he can't rein himself in. But even to that, I could tell Trump what he needs to do to rein himself in. Like, he needs to change the format. Whether or not he has it on Fox, irrelevant. What he does need to have is that crowd, because Trump feeds off of a crowd more expertly than any president or presidential candidate I've seen. So if he can get back to a format that works for him, I think he can walk out of that third debate looking good. And if he can do that, well, guess what? this goes back to a pretty interesting race. But if he doesn't, well, then I think it's going to be a bit of a mess of his own making, though. Not because of what he said, but because he just didn't want to go into that third debate to kind of erase people's memories of what he said. So I don't understand that. And part of what we'll be looking at tonight are a couple of things that are going on as a result that really just make you wonder, like, Trump, like, do you have an ace up your sleeve? Because now is the time to play it. This race is incredibly close, and I'll pull something up that we'll be looking at this at different points in the night. But for perspective, this is the electoral map. You got to get 270 electoral votes to win. And if we look at the map and we say, you know, I'm taking all the swing states out. 6 swing states, I take them out. Reds basically voted for Trump both times. Blues basically voted against Trump both times. Trump's got 248 electoral votes. Kamala's got 213. So that's the starting point. That's how interesting this race can be. And if Trump takes Georgia, and if Kamala takes Pennsylvania, then Trump's almost got it in the bag. So this is why we say it's close. Trump's at 267. If he takes any other swing state, he wins. It's over. But here's the problem. All 6 swing states have generally voted the same way. Oh, wait, I did that backwards. Yeah. Okay, so if Trump takes Georgia, let me get that red. And Kamala takes Pennsylvania. Okay, there we go. He's at 264. So the point is still the same. He's almost there. And basically, the smallest swing state is 6 points. He wins. He needs 1 swing state and he wins. But those states have voted the same way each time. They've all been Republican. They've all been Democrat. So it's not as simple as saying he just needs 1 more state. It's more like, okay, is he going to sweep all of these or is he going to lose all of those? Because that's what's most likely. And for all the people who are saying that North Carolina is a swing state, I don't believe that. That's just a media talking point because they want to generate some news and give people something to argue about. North Carolina voted for Trump both times. So if you're telling me that it's going to vote for Kamala because of the polls, given how inaccurate we know the polls have been, I don't believe that. Like, no. I don't think Georgia's going to fall. If Trump doesn't lose, if he doesn't win Georgia, he loses. If Kamala doesn't win Pennsylvania, she loses. But I don't see either of those things happening. Question is, who's going to get all of that? And for Trump, that third debate could be the way to win it all, and not having that third debate could cost him. To talk about kind of the importance of this third debate to the presidential race, I want you to think about something it's kind of funny to look at how something has progressed. The vice presidents are going to have a debate in a week. And normally nobody cares about the vice presidential debates. People don't watch them. People don't care. The vice presidents don't matter. But oddly, this one is starting to matter a little bit. Now, what I'll say is, I think Walz is doing what Walz is supposed to do. He's kind of staying in the background. He's out, he's campaigning, he's doing his part. Nobody's really paying attention to Walz. So it's not that Walz is helping Kamala, but Walz isn't hurting Kamala. J.D. Vance, on the other hand, J.D. Vance is making noise, and it's not good noise. And he's now starting to draw a lot of attention to Trump that's negative. Because J.D. Vance is out here saying things like, Sounds like you're admitting you made up the story about dogs and cats. Now, that's not exactly what you said, but you did say you created a story. And unless you're saying that that story is true, which at this point, how can you say it is true? Then you are saying you made up a story about dogs and cats to draw attention to it. And you got to ask the question, okay, why are you sitting here making up these stories based on very flimsy data? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish? This is going to be a live react. I saw this and I didn't react to this particular clip of it, but we're going to take a look at a clip from J.D. Vance and his interview, because we have to really take a look at what's going on with Vance here and why he's getting himself into all this trouble. So let's take a listen. I think I know what this one's going to say because I've seen part of it, but we'll see.
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
You just said that this is a story that you created. So the eating dogs and cats thing is not.
We are accurate. Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents.
Okay. So let's look at what he said and let's look at it fairly. He didn't say he outright lied. That wasn't what he said. He said, no, I took this story from my constituents. We don't know who, but he's basically standing there and he's backing up this story he told that we know is not true. There is no evidence. I have seen zero evidence, and I have looked. Zero evidence of Haitian immigrants eating dogs and cats, dogs or cats. There's some weird video of some guy walking around with some ducks, but I don't actually know what that is. And I'm becoming more skeptical of that video by the day because I don't know that it was someone who went to the park, grabbed a duck, and took it home to cook. All I know is there was a man standing on a street holding a duck. Is he a Haitian immigrant? I don't know. Did he have any business doing that? I don't know. It's just a video of a man holding a duck and somebody making up a story about it. And what I've got to back that up is essentially J.D. Vance saying that he will make up stories to try to draw people's attention to an issue. Now, I don't think he's saying he'll outright lie. But he is kind of suggesting he'll sensationalize, which is just as bad given his position. And you have to go back to the fact that there is no evidence of dogs and cats being eaten by Haitian immigrants. So you got to say, okay, JD, at some point, you need to admit that you don't actually have any data to back this up. Either you have data and you need to show it, or you don't have any data and you need to admit it. And Sheila is saying, you saw the police footage of a woman being arrested for eating a cat. I saw that footage too. Here's the funny thing about that footage, Sheila, and this is a very important fact because this is why I'm trying to give JD a fair evaluation of what he said, but also that. If you look at that footage of the woman eating the cat and the police come in and they start, it's at night and she's on like a driveway and they're basically saying, did you eat a cat? And they're talking to like some neighbors or something. Here's the thing. First off, I do think that woman was eating a cat. So I think that was some woman who was coked up out of her mind. And from what I understand, she kicked this cat, killed it, and then she started eating it. So she's out of her mind crazy, and she's eating a cat. But here are the problems with the video, and there are a lot. The first problem, and this is the biggest problem, that woman is not a Haitian and she's not an immigrant. She's an American. She was born in Ohio. She lives in Ohio. So the notion that that was a Haitian immigrant eating a cat is outright wrong. Second thing is, She was not in Springfield. She was like 3 hours west of Springfield. I think it was Chester, Ohio, or something like that. So it wasn't a Haitian immigrant, and it wasn't Springfield. It was a woman eating a cat, but it was like a coked up, knucklehead eating a cat. If JD Vance is the one who told that story, okay, he lied. And he hasn't admitted that he lied. The problem is, all right, let's just play this out, because there are a couple of things JD Vance has done in his short term that are basically tripping Trump up. So if JD Vance feeds this story to Trump, okay, you know what? I can understand Trump saying, my vice president just gave me this info. I need to run with it. Well, it's my vice president. Of course I'm going to trust my vice president and his sources. But now Trump is on a stage, on a debate stage in front of the nation, and he's saying something that's just not true. I mean, it's just dead wrong, as in Haitians in Springfield are suing Vance and Trump because of what they said. I don't know all the details of the lawsuit, but I just saw that pop up. That could be on Vance, just feeding bad information to Trump. And it's not the only thing Vance has done. I mean, Vance misrepresented Trump's stance on abortion. Someone was asking him about whether or not Trump would basically vote for a national ban on abortion. And JD said something like, yeah, of course he would. And when Trump was on the debate stage, they challenged Trump on that. And Trump said, hey, wait, JD Vance and I haven't talked about that. Now, we came back to Vance later, like someone followed up with him, and he admitted, he's like, hey, I learned my lesson about talking to Trump and understanding his position before I just go out and represent it. Now, I don't know the real story. Did JD Vance talk to Trump and, Trump just changed his mind? Maybe. I don't think so. I mean, I think that, kind of the dots line up and you just follow the trail. JD Vance was trying to speak on Trump's behalf. He said something he shouldn't have, and he got his hand slapped. But JD Vance is hurting Trump. JD Vance is a problem for Trump. And don't get me wrong. I don't dislike JD Vance as a person. I mean, as a person, he's a veteran. So, I thank him for his service. He's an author. He's in politics, but he's been in politics for 2 years now. He doesn't have much political experience. He's making a lot of mistakes. Now, these seem to be the kinds of mistakes that, I guess someone who's newer to politics is going to make because they've got to learn the ropes. When do you answer? When don't you answer? Know how to waffle, know how to get locked into something, make sure you know what your boss's position is on something before you say it. And don't set your boss up for failure by giving him some data that's just dead wrong right before he walks out on stage and kind of embarrasses himself. If Trump could go back in time, this is I don't know, but I can't see how it would be any different. I don't think he'd pick JD Vance to be his vice president if he had a do-over. Now, he doesn't, and JD Vance could be what sinks his ship. Could be. I mean, if this dogs and cats things was JD Vance and it's what cost Trump, if Trump loses by, like last time, if he loses by 11,000 votes in Georgia, that might be JD Vance's fault because he fed him a story that made him look crazy and cost him a couple of thousand votes in a key swing state. That could be what happens. And part of that's going to be on Trump because Trump picked JD Vance to be his running mate. JD Vance was not the only choice he had. So following up, so on Sheila's, that footage of the woman eating a cat, that seems to be legit, but it is not a Haitian immigrant and it's not Springfield. And One Who Cares says Vance needs to go. Yeah. Yeah. Trump should have chosen a different running mate. I agree with you 100%. Trump chose the least well, I can't. Okay, let me not say that way, because there was Vivek, Vivek was kind of like a different thing. Trump chose the guy who I would have put last on my list of choices. It's like all the other choices in front of JD Vance were people who had more experience than him, or they were Vivek, who doesn't have any political experience, but he's a business billionaire. So Vivek is bringing kind of youth and if he's trying to go after a broader base, I think Vivek does a better job of that than JD Vance. And with Vivek, you're like, okay, Vivek has got some business savvy. You know, he's made a lot of money. You can respect him for that. Nobody didn't know JD Vance until he became vice president. And now we're learning about him, but he's not helping Trump. I can't imagine anyone saying that JD Vance is helping Trump right now. I actually can't imagine anyone not recognizing that JD Vance is hurting Trump right now. And here's what's going to happen in a week. We're going to have a debate, a vice presidential debate that normally nobody would care about. But people are going to kind of care this time, because I can tell you right now, if I'm Walz, guess what I'm walking into the debate with? Hey, JD Vance, you only been doing this for 2 years, you know. How much have you learned in 2 years, really? You know, I'm going to make sure I explain clearly how little experience he has. That's number one. So people look and say, yeah, this guy is next in line to be president, and he still hadn't figured out which end is up. I don't like that. Then we're going to go into dogs and cats. JD Vance, why'd you lie about it? And now JD is stuck because he hasn't admitted he lied. What is JD's answer when Walz says, why'd you lie about it? He doesn't have a good answer. If he says, I didn't lie, then you're going to say, well, then you're saying that dogs and cats story is true, which it's not. And he can't say yes, otherwise he sounds crazy. It's been proven that it's not true. So why'd you lie, JD? If he tries to defend it, he's dead. If he waits until that point to say, oh, I didn't really look at the right sources. Why are you waiting until now to tell us that, you know, that story was false, that it was uncorroborated? There is no escape for JD Vance that I can see from that question. So now he's going to be 2 questions in, and he's sunk. It's like, I'm showing that JD Vance is inexperienced. I'm showing that JD Vance tells a bunch of lies. And then I'm just going to start talking about a lot of other things, but if I'm Walz, I'm not going to think about answering questions. I'm just going to keep pointing the finger at Vance and talking about all of his missteps. Like, look what JD Vance did here. Look what JD Vance did there. JD Vance, you know, whatever JD Vance wants to do, if he attacks Walz for flip-flopping on an issue, he's like, 10 years ago you said this, but now you're saying that. All Walz has to do is attack him on his inexperience. Hey, 10 years ago, this was how the water was flowing. Things have changed. You know, if you were in this role for a while, you'd have known that kind of we were thinking one thing before, the wind shifted, and now everybody's kind of moved into a new space. I don't see how JD Vance is going to do anything other than look horrible coming out of this vice presidential debate. And the funny thing is, so far, Walz has done an almost perfect job of vice president, because what Walz has done is stayed out of the limelight. That's his job. Don't make noise. Don't be a distraction. Go out, give people a good, warm and fuzzy feeling, but do not be a distraction to the president. How often do you pay attention to vice presidents? Almost never. Almost never. JD Vance isn't even vice president yet. Can't stop talking about him because he can't keep his foot out of his mouth. So we're going to see what happens on this second debate. But right now, I think that Vance is going to look bad. Vance might say something that's even worse than he said before as he tries to defend his past behavior. And all of that is going to reflect on Trump. What Walz wants to do is have voters walk out of that second presidential debate thinking J.D. Vance is not the guy who should be second in line for the presidency. That's the goal if I'm Walz. That is 100% the goal. And if I accomplish that, I did my job. And right now, I don't see how Walz can fumble that. It's almost impossible for him to fumble that because of all the stuff that J.D. Vance has been doing. So we'll see what happens there. But that is part of this big contribution to what's going on with Trump right now, which is, and this is kind of a telling thing about Trump. Trump had a confidence before that he doesn't have as much of right now. And the reason I say that, you can kind of see Trump's kind of his inner thoughts on things just by the way he talks. Because when Trump is confident, he's kind of focused. And when he's not confident, he's distracted. And literally, you can see it when Trump is distracted. Remember when the hush money case was going on? And after that case, Trump couldn't talk about it. And suddenly, you could see that Trump was suddenly distracted. That was the first time I saw Trump do an interview where he didn't look like he was in control. It was the day after the case. He looked tired. He looked a little bit worn out. And he couldn't stop talking about the gag order on what was going on with the case, those distractions. Now, Trump kind of got past those distractions because let's face it, after the first debate, when Trump was clearly in the lead, Trump wasn't distracted. He was clear and he was focused. After the second debate, and after J.D. Vance starts, running his mouth, you're seeing Trump get distracted again. Now everything seems to be bothering Trump. Let's think about this. In the last week, what has Trump been talking about? Taylor Swift. Why does Trump care about Taylor Swift's endorsement? I don't think Taylor Swift's endorsement is going to carry much weight, if any weight, with voters. Voters say, you're Taylor Swift. If I was going to vote for Trump, I'm still going to vote for him. If I was going to vote for Kamala, I'm still going to vote for her. I don't think too many people are going to say, well, Taylor Swift said vote for Kamala, so that's what I'm doing. Maybe a couple of 18-year-olds first time voting don't really have any other way to break the tie, maybe. But for the most part, I think people know what they're doing. But what can change people's minds is Trump coming out and tweeting, I hate Taylor Swift. It's not because they got any allegiance to Taylor Swift or not, but it's because they're trying to break a tie. And Trump's out here complaining about a singer. Really? Don't you have bigger things to be worried about right now than that? Trump has been bothered by Jimmy Fallon. Again, I don't know why he's so focused on entertainers and some of the things that they're saying, because they don't matter to voters. But Trump is really focused on them. Lucas Drennan, welcome to the show. Thank you for stopping by. Let me see. Sheila said, thank you for clarifying that. Yep, no problem. I was clarifying for her the dog and the woman eating the cat video. Not a Haitian, not in Springfield. Lucas Drennan, at a town hall, Trump said he wanted to stop the import of foreign foods to lower grocery prices. That won't work the way he thinks. No. He wanted to stop the import of foreign foods. That would jack prices up horribly. Okay. Oh, my God. I didn't see that. Okay. Yeah, I would. Some of the stuff Trump says about his ideas for the economy, some of the stuff he says makes sense. Some of the things don't make sense. Sometimes he'll say things and they sound good, but let's face it. If you limit the supply, prices basically work off of supply and demand. Real simple. The more product that's available, the less expensive it is. If I limit the amount of food that's coming in, I'm cutting down the supply. that means prices go up. That is necessarily what it means. If you're looking, I mean, I can say that I used to work long ago, General Mills. General Mills makes cereal, sells cereal, one of the biggest cereal manufacturers in the world, right behind Kellogg. If there's some hard issue and there's not as much wheat going around, guess what? Wheat's more expensive to buy because there's less supply. And that means your cereal prices are going up. That's just how it works. You got the supply, prices go down. You don't have the supply, prices go up. If you limit options, you raise prices. That is necessarily what will happen. Sarah Sanders Town Hall. Okay, I'm going to look that up because I am curious about that. But let me come back to JD Vance, just because JD Vance has got to be the thorn in Trump's side that he's just wishing he never picked in the first place. I don't know what else JD Vance said here, so let's just take a quick listen.
I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into Springfield thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. Her policies did that, but yes, we created the actual focus that allowed the American media to talk about this story and the suffering caused by Kamala Harris's policies.
Okay. Now, here's another thing about the Haitian. Notice he said the 20,000 illegal immigrants. My understanding is those Haitian immigrants in Springfield, they're not okay, so that's just something else. They're not illegals. Those Haitian immigrants are actually legal immigrants. So you have legal immigrants in Springfield from Haiti who are being accused of being illegal, eating dogs and cats. And let's face it, here's like the nail in the coffin. If they were illegal immigrants, they wouldn't have standing to sue Vance and Trump. I guess they're making a class action civil suit. You couldn't do it. It's like, you're an illegal immigrant. You have no standing to sue the potential vice president. You got to be a citizen. Vance and Trump are being sued because Vance set up this crazy lie and has got them stuck in this honeypot that they can't get out of. The only way out of this is for Vance to come out like in the next day or two and say, look, I trusted a source that was kind of flimsy. I shouldn't have. I made a mistake. I told Trump something that I hadn't corroborated it at all. It was just dead wrong. These are not illegal immigrants. They're not eating dogs and cats, and I owe them an apology. That's like the only thing he can do to get out of this. But if he doesn't do that now, he's going to be stuck in the vice presidential debate with someone saying, why the hell did you lie? And he's just going to be sitting there saying, He's not going to have an answer. He's not going to have a defense. And I don't know what's going to happen with this lawsuit. I mean, let's face it. Those Haitian immigrants. Okay, so now JD Vance is making me mad because those Haitian immigrants might win some big class action lawsuit. If that goes to court, what jury is not going to side with them right now? Explain to me any rationale for why a jury is not going to side with them when we know the story's false. And that means they're going to win millions of taxpayer dollars, and it's all going to be JD Vance's fault. It's like, wait a minute, JD, if you're costing me money, now I do have a reason not to like it. We have to see how this goes. But JD Vance hasn't admitted that it's a lie when everybody knows it's a lie. And that's going to end up coming back to bite Trump in the butt. Let me see. One Who Cares says, Vance can ask, Timmy about deserting his platoon. Ooh, what? Deserting his platoon? Allowing trans boys to change in girls' locker rooms? What is this? Oh, shoot. Wait a minute. Okay, I got to abandon his platoon. What is this? Okay, I'm just going to plug this into Google. Did Vance abandon his platoon? What is this? Vance took digs at Walz's military career. Tim Walz, okay. Okay, so Vance is attacking Walz's military career. Swift boat attacking, okay. Vance, okay, I'm not, okay, I'll have to look this up. Vance is attacking Walz's military career. I'm not seeing what's going on with Vance's military career, but I will have to take a peek because I don't know. That's a weird. Usually I'm used to veterans seem to always have kind of the brotherhood. I'm not used to seeing veterans attack each other. I mean, not on this kind of a stage for their service. Sure, you've got some veterans who saw more combat, were in more dangerous situations than others. But generally, the veterans, that's a weird thing for Vance to do. Veterans usually stick together. I mean, you can go to some YouTube channels where you got the veterans, and you can tell when two vets are on the channel. There's a camaraderie amongst them that you just don't get unless you got servicemen together in a room. So we're gonna have to look at Vance. Vance is gonna cost Trump votes. That's just how it is. I don't see any way out of this. I really don't see any way out of this. But part of this goes back to that idea of Trump being distracted. See, because Trump is all over the place right now with Kamala and Jimmy Fallon. And I saw Trump even complaining about Ryan Ruth. Essentially, he was complaining about the way they're handling Ryan Ruth and Ryan Ruth, the second assassination attempt. He was complaining about how they were handling that case. And it was weird because, all right, let's face it. They're building a case against Ryan Ruth. Nobody on the planet thinks that Ryan Ruth is going to see the light of day again in his life. He's getting locked up. And they're going to throw away the key. Now, what they seem to be doing is they're trying him for lots of different things incrementally. So I don't think he's been formally charged with attempted assassination yet. He's been charged with being having a weapon while on parole and doing some other things. But everybody knows the attempted assassination charges are coming. And everybody knows that, when everything is said and done, Ruth is going to be locked away in a cell for life. There's no way around that. So for Trump to get kind of caught up in that, I get it. He's distracted. When things aren't going well, he starts to get distracted by all of these little things. And I think some of that is JD Vance messing up. Keeping Trump's eye off the prize. I'm sure that I'm sure right now Donald Trump is probably talking to JD Vance about the upcoming debate and saying, okay, what are you going to say? Because they're going to ask you some questions. We don't care about what the vice president wants to do. We care about what the vice president plans to do representing the president. So now we got JD Vance answering questions on behalf of Trump. And that's where if I'm Trump, I'm like, we got to go line by line through every one of my policies because I got to make sure you don't say something stupid. Don't misrepresent my position on abortion. Don't misrepresent my position on the economy. Don't misrepresent my position on immigration. You got to be careful about all of that stuff. And let's face it, JD Vance lied about cats and dogs, and then when he came on CNN to defend himself, he still was lying about the illegal immigration. Those immigrant, there are illegal immigrants in America. Let's not pretend like that's not the case. He's just pointing to legal immigrants and misclassifying them and then lying about their behavior. And it's a very bad look, especially when he doesn't admit that he was wrong. Beware of JD Vance and what he might do to the Trump campaign, because he might cost Trump the election. And one who cares just said there's an interview with a soldier who talked about their time in Desert Storm. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look that one up, and I'll probably try to do a video once I kind of get a chance to look at the interview. I'll try to do a video on it. That, oh my gosh. I mean, if J.D. Vance showed cowardice in wartime, and he's attacking Walz's military record. So he was a coward, but he's pretending like he's not, and he's attacking Walz's service record. Do you know how bad a look that's going to be? Let's imagine veterans. Let's hypothetically say that you've got some veterans who are actually, I do know a veteran who's, well, I won't say he's undecided. I think he just doesn't love his choices. But I kind of get a feeling of which way he's going to go. However, let's say you got veterans who are looking at Vance, and hypothetically, Vance displayed cowardice on the field, and he's attacking the valor of somebody else who was in the service. Could that be enough to sway somebody who's kind of indecisive on who they want to vote for? I don't see how it wouldn't be. And wouldn't have anything to do with Trump. It's J.D. Vance costing Trump votes. I'm definitely going to look that up. Because, yeah, if J.D. Vance, oh my gosh, that would be a bombshell. And if that's the case, then that's going to come. There's no way that would not come up in the vice president debate. Actually, yeah, if I'm Walz, I'm not going to make any noise about it until the vice presidential debate. And then I'm going to blast. I think J.D. Vance is going to get destroyed on Tuesday. There's just all this ammunition. And J.D. Vance could end up costing Trump votes. J.D. Vance is already costing Trump votes. And he might end up costing him some money on top of that if this civil suit goes through. J.D. Vance was, I don't know. He's not looking like he was the right pick. He needs to really figure out a way to reposition himself. Because right now, he's just a thorn in Trump's side. Somebody who you wish you could sweep under the rug because it's just not looking good. There's nothing positive coming out of him and his activities right now. And he's only been in politics for like 2 years. So, you have to say this guy he hasn't learned the ropes yet. And if he hasn't learned the ropes for basics in politics, how can he be president? How can he be the number 2 to be the president? That's going to hurt. But let me go back to the map for just a second, because it is important to think about where things are going. This is what I think is going to happen right now. If Trump does not have a third debate, this is what I think is going to happen. Now, remember, if we're looking at the election based on what happened last year, based on where things seem to be, Trump takes Georgia, Harris takes Pennsylvania. I think Harris gets Michigan, and I think Harris gets Wisconsin. That's just, you can even look at the way Trump's been campaigning there. I think she gets both of those. Trump is going to have to carry Arizona or Nevada. Not impossible at all. But we are talking about a simple fact, which is in the last 2 elections, these swing states all voted the same way. There was an analyst who was basically saying, if you're counting on getting some of the swing states and not all of them, then you're basically smoking something. That wasn't verbatim what he said, but that was the idea. He was fundamentally saying, you get all 4 of these or you lose all 4 of these. Now, he's been doing the analysis a lot longer than I have, but I kind of agree with him. Based on the last 2 elections, you're either going to get all 4 or you're going to lose all 4. Georgia and Pennsylvania are the ones that are the outliers, but those, So we got to ask the question, what's Trump going to do to win Arizona or Nevada? Not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying, what's he going to do? And part of it becomes, what's he going to do to win Arizona and Nevada if he's got a vice president who keeps giving people pause about his ability to step in and be president if something happens to Trump? Now, God forbid something happens to Trump. I don't want that. The people who kind of advocate for that are just sickos. They've got if you root for somebody to be assassinated, there's something wrong with you inside. So I'm not advocating for it at all. But I do want to point something out. In 2 months, there were 2 assassination attempts on Trump. Now, Secret Service is being dialed up, which it should be. If I'm Trump's security detail, everywhere he goes, all through his campaigning, if he wins the election, all through the election, he's going to have heightened security. If I'm the guy who's, unless you got fired, it's actually the woman who is responsible for organizing all of this. But we have to kind of recognize there have been 2 assassination attempts on Trump in a 2-month span. So to assume that that's it, I think is naive. We can hope, we can, pull out plans, we can do our best, but you have to recognize, there are crazy people out there, and there might be somebody else out there who's going to try. And the notion that J.D. Vance, you can't just look at J.D. Vance and say, hey, look, what's the likelihood that this guy has to step in and be president? It's a real possibility. I don't want the sequence of events that would lead to that to happen, but we can't pretend like it can't happen. Not at this point. You literally have 2 assassins in the last few weeks, basically. So how do you just sit back and say, J.D. Vance probably never be president when you've got that as, kind of the setup? The runway is leading to a specific path, which is that there is risk. We need to be ready for that. I don't think, you can disagree. People can disagree with me. I don't think J.D. Vance is ready to step into the presidency if something happens to Trump. I just don't. I haven't seen that from him. He's honestly not really ready to step into the vice presidency, as far as I can tell. All he's done in the time that he's been here seems to be make mistakes. I haven't heard about him campaigning well, generating crowds, raising revenue. I haven't heard about J.D. Vance accomplishing much of anything except making messes. And that's not what you want from a vice president. You need a vice president who can support and improve your position. Give me a vice president who helps me to win a state that I'm iffy on. Give me a vice president who can go to campaigns and get me money from donors. Give me a vice president who can tee me up well when I'm coming out on a speech and get people more excited. Give me a vice president who's going to do something to help me succeed. Not a vice president who's going to start making up lies that he doesn't defend and that make me look like a goofball when I go out on debates. Not a vice president who's getting me sued. Not a vice president if what we're hearing is true, might have some skeletons in his closet that are going to come back and destroy me on election night because people are going to say that I chose a coward as my vice president. Not only a coward, but a coward who then tries to mock other soldiers for not stepping up and doing something that he couldn't. I'm really going to have to look that story up. I gotta find the details of that because that, oh my God, yeah, that is going to be huge. If J.D. Vance has had some less than valorous moments on the battlefield and he's trying to throw shade at Tim Walz, then he's doomed. That is political doom. That story comes out, he's done for. Nobody's ever going to look at him with any shred of credibility ever again. But I guess, here's the thought. I'm so curious about that story. I want to go look it up. So here's the thought for people for tonight. If we look at the winds and the way they're blowing, this election is still very much up in the air. But the tide seems to be going a certain direction. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of the reason the tide seems to be going the direction it is seems to be J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is apparently the reason behind this whole dogs and cats story. J.D. Vance's lack of experience is the reason behind some of the disagreements he's got with Trump. J.D. Vance is looking more and more like somebody who's not ready to step in to be president. And J.D. Vance is closer to the presidency than Walz because there have been 2 assassination attempts on Trump. That's not something that anyone likes to think about, but it's the reality. That has happened. So we have to consider that J.D. Vance could become president, and he doesn't seem to be ready. That's something that's kind of scary. Trump as the president doesn't scare me. Kamala as the president doesn't scare me. Walz, I don't really have an opinion on him because I just don't know that much about him. He's a vice president. I don't care. But Vance is concerning me because Vance is making a lot of mistakes. In a short window of time, he's just making a lot of mistakes. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So that's not something I want to see. But that's just me. Other people could be in other places. However, that's a problem that could come back to haunt Trump when people go to the ballots. Because, I'm assuming that after Tuesday, we're going to be hearing a lot of noise about how Walz looked great. The reality is going to be all Walz did was not look stupid, and Vance is going to come out of that looking stupid, and that's going to cost some votes. Anyway, this one's a shorter show because I want to go look up this story about Vance and what's happening because, if this is a big story, I definitely want to break the story if it's the case. There's no coming back from this, so we're just going to have to see. One who cares, thanks for feeding me this info. I will do my diligence. And we'll be back next week for the vice presidential debate.